everyone, welcome to a brand new season of BubblegumConnects. My name is Mika Chipana, and this is where we connect with artists, musicians, innovators, fashion designers, and most importantly, we connect with you. We have one of fashion's innovators, Riyaadh, here, who was an alumni of BubblegumX, and he designs menswear. He's a stylist and a creative director. His work has been showcased in New York City's Times Square. Riyaadh, welcome.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good, thanks.
So tell us about yourself. What do you do? How did you get into fashion?
Currently, I'm a menswear designer because I feel like there's a lot more I need to learn before I'm able to do women's wear as well. And I don't want to take that craft for granted. But yeah, at this point, I'm a designer, stylist, and creative director. From a very young age, I was drawn to sports and I wanted to be a professional footballer. But then as soon as I fell off from sports, I found myself obsessing over what I wore, ensuring it was different. So I've always been quite picky with what I put on. It became an obsession where I wanted to know how things are made, where it's made, the differences in different garments and the composition of it as well. So it really became an obsession. It translated from being a consumer to realizing that I wasn't happy with what I was consuming and I wanted better. And then it just became an obsession.
So obviously you were our first participant for the BubblegumX daily paper exchange program. So what was that like, traveling to Amsterdam, learning from the people at daily paper? Please take us through the whole process from you applying, you seeing the announcement, and then finally going to Amsterdam.
As a whole, it's surreal. I only seen or came across the competition I think a day or 2 days before like entries expired, and immediately upon seeing it, and I seen it with my girlfriend, and she seen the competition and she read it out for me, and she began crying because she was like, if you apply, you're gonna win and I'm not gonna see you for a month. And I was like, no, I'll just be grateful to make the first selection or like the first top 10. Luckily enough, I'm constantly upgrading and updating my portfolios and stuff, so it wasn't like I had to rush and apply. I had everything on hand. I applied when the announcement came for the top 10. Super grateful just to make it into top 10. I ran to the nearest playing facility and I prayed immediately just to always show gratitude. I was a bit more confident with top 5, I think, because it was a voting process. And then in terms of the last phase where I think it was the interview, I was super nervous because I felt like I overspoke. But I think that same passion or hunger that they could hear from me in the interviews is the reason I won. And then once all of that was sorted, everything was just surreal, man. I think a lot of people would have got overwhelmed by the fact that it's daily paper and you go into Amsterdam, but I'm super grateful that my feet stayed on the ground. I was more excited at the opportunity to work and more hungry for the knowledge that I would get, as opposed to getting caught up in the hype of going to Amsterdam. Upon getting there and working there, I can't describe how amazing it was. There's things that I've learned in the space of a month that I wouldn't have learned in 3 years back home, but I was able to pick that up in a month there. To everyone that I've spoken about, when they ask like what's the biggest thing you've taken away, for me it's the validation. My work is being gravitated towards, validated my dreams, and I think that's something that you can't put a price on.
So I know when it comes to inspiration for myself, I hear song, I see people walking in a park and a story comes to me or a scene comes to me. So for you, what brings your garments to life? What inspires you from beginning to end to create a piece of clothing?
There's so much. I get inspired by nearly everything, but I think at the core of it, it's family, it's heritage, it's tradition, it's stories that are being told in households around the world, but are maybe not being documented. And then you see like a meme about it and you're like, yo, that happens to me as well, and then you can relate. I'm super big on storytelling and being able to relate through a piece of art, because that's the same way that I consume. I always say like it's easy to design something good or to see something and be like, yo, this looks nice, I'm gonna buy it. But now if you see how it looks, you like how it looks, you buy it, and then you find out who the designer is, you relate to the designer, you like him as a person, then you like the story of that specific collection, you a fan of the brand and the person for life. as opposed to just being in love with the piece.
So, your journey so far, nobody can say they've had an easy journey. So, what are some difficulties you've had to overcome to be where you are today, to have your own men's line?
I think getting started is the most difficult thing. Coming from the background that I come from, already coming out and saying, I don't want to pursue this or that career. I want to be a fashion designer. It's almost unheard of. There's no role models that I could pick from where I come from to say, but this person has done it. So getting started was the toughest thing to do. Luckily for me, in my third year, I say luckily, but it wasn't lucky for a lot of people. COVID hit and lockdown hit. So I went back home, and then I pleaded with my dad to give me a year to just try to pursue what I actually want to do. It's been 3 years and I haven't gone back. So even being called or being a part of now BubblegumClub's alumni is crazy, because alumni is something you associate with education, and I'm a dropout. So it's crazy. I'm grateful for everything.
So obviously South Africa's fashion industry is developing, it's coming up, it's growing. What is your ultimate dream for fashion in South Africa? How do you want to pioneer a new movement for our country and our fashion?
I think just for it to be fully appreciated, for it to be appreciated and purchased by the market that's purchasing the same level of brands but globally, purely because it's globally. I mean, there's a lot of luxury South African brands that are loved, adorned and purchased globally, but they're not purchased locally. Whereas I don't even think it's really a financial standpoint, because that's the same people who would spend that money on a European luxury label, despite the fact that they like the South African item more. It's just a mindset of like, but it's from South Africa. Whereas local luxury is there. I mean, if the scale is smaller, surely we put in more effort into detail. Surely we focus in more on our craft. So I'm super excited, because I think it's growing rapidly. I think there's exposure is beginning to grow. There's more retail stores beginning to open to house South African brands. There's brands that are building cultures, and I think that the important factor of now, what's happening now, is there's a lot of focus being put on production. When shooting a campaign, when building a site, there's a lot of focus on it now. Whereas before, the focus was only on the product. Whereas I think now, even with myself, I would have never imagined calling myself a creative director. But now that's again an aspect that I'm obsessed with. So I think it's growing. It's an exciting time for us.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Riyaadh. We hope that you learned from Riyaadh's journey, and thank you for watching another episode of BubblegumConnects.